Okay. Okay, so in the previous class, we discussed the invertebrates, which are the animals with no backbone. And now we'll be discussing the vertebrates, starting off with the reptiles. First off, the reptiles, they breathe with lungs, okay, and their bodies are covered with dry, scaly skin, which is sort of, it looks like the skin of a fish. However, the skin of fish is moist and not dry, but for reptiles, the scales are very dry, okay, and they lay eggs, and these eggs are called amniotic eggs. What does amniotic eggs mean? It means that these eggs allow the exchange of air between the surrounding and the zygote or the baby inside of this egg. Okay. They also do double circulation within their circulatory system. What does double loop of blood cycle means? It means that the blood moves within the heart twice per circuit. Okay, so within one circuit, the blood passes through the heart twice. A circulatory system where blood passes through the heart twice and has two separate circuits, one for oxygenated blood and the other for deoxygenated blood. And oxygenated blood is the type of blood that's filled with oxygen, okay? And it is the blood that has passed through the lungs so that it can be filled with oxygen. And deoxygenated blood is the blood that lacks oxygen or is filled with carbon dioxide. Okay, and mostly it is the blood that has left the cells or organs or tissues and is going back to the lungs to get oxygenated and to remove its carbon dioxide from it. Once again, a double blood cycle is a cycle that means that the blood is going to pass by the heart twice per one cycle. Okay, and they're considered internal, they have internal reproduction, which means the fertilization occurs within the female inside of it, and they are considered ectothermic or cold-blooded. What does that mean? It means that their body temperature depends on the surrounding. They do not exert they do not exert energy to withstand their internal temperature. Okay, whatever the temperature surrounding them is, they are fluid with it. Okay, unlike us, for example, whenever the temperature is very low, our body will try to generate heat to withstand its own temperature. That's why we're called warm-blooded. Okay, and that's the difference between being warm-blooded and cold-blooded. Warm-blooded, we generate heat or energy to withstand our internal temperature. Most reptiles have 3 chambers of heart, except for what? Except for crocodiles, which have 4 chambers of heart. What are the heart chambers? We're going to talk about them in detail later, but for now, just know that reptiles have 3 chambers and crocodiles have 4 chambers. And they use kidneys to filter their blood from waste products. This is the amnion. How do reptiles hear exactly? They have a specific feature, which is called the tympanic membrane, which is equivalent to an eardrum, which helps them in hearing. However, there are other reptiles, or some reptiles, they do not have this tympanic membrane, and they rely on the vibration that they get from their surrounding, like snakes. And they detect this vibration by what? They detect it by their jaw bones. Okay, and you can think of this as if like, because the snakes, for example, they're always in contact with the surface, so it's easier for them to detect this vibration from the surface. Next we have something called the Jacobson's organ, okay, which is a pair of sac-like means it looks like a sac, okay, and it senses odor, it senses smells, okay, and they're at the top of snake's mouth, as you can see. Okay, and they are right behind the nose because they sense odor. Okay, so now we have two important features: the tympanic membrane, which detects vibration or detects hearing, and the Jacobson organ, which performs like a nose. Okay, we have four orders for reptiles, which are the Cephalopods, which an example for it is the Tutaris, and the Testodontia, which an example for it is the turtles and tortoises. And then we have the Crocodontia, which we have crocodiles and alligators, and the Squamata, which has lizards and snakes. You only need to know the classifications and its examples. By the way, guys, whenever the prayer has started, you can just tell me and I'll stop right away. Next, we'll have the amphibians, which they live both on land and in water. Okay, so they're fluid. They can live in water or on land. And examples for these are like the frogs and toads, and they have 4 legs. Their skin is moist, and they do not have scales, unlike the reptiles, which have dry scales. Okay, and they're ectothermal and or cold-blooded. These two terms are equivalent, so whenever you get this or that, you know what they mean. Okay, they have 3 chambers within their heart, 2 atria and 1 ventricle, and their circulation is double looped as well. The blood passes by the heart twice per circuit. Now we have 3 orders for amphibians. Okay, we have the Gymnophilian, which are legless. They do not have legs, and an example for that is the Sicilians. Okay, they are tropical amphibians that look like large worms or slick snakes. Okay, they have no arms or legs, and sometimes it's hard to tell which end is the head and which is the tail. Okay, and this is what it looks like. You can't really tell where is the anus or where is the head, and they have a smooth skin or a slick skin. Okay, and they are legless. They do not have any extensions. And next, we have the Chordata, which has legs and tails. An example for that is the salamanders. And next, we have the Anora, which is tailless. It does not have tail. An example for this is the frogs and toads. Okay. So, how do amphibians breathe? They breathe either with lungs or with gills, depending on the organism. Okay. And they filter their waste by their kidney. Okay, and they excrete either ammonia or urea. And urea, later we will learn, it's always formed in liver. Okay, they have a special specificity, which is the cloaca. Okay, it is a chamber that receives digestive wastes. Okay, so it's a chamber that holds the waste, and it also carries the eggs or sperms before they leave the body. Okay, so it's like a sac that holds either wastes or the reproductive materials of the animal. Okay. Also, they reproduce by sexual reproduction or the external fertilization. Okay, so they lay their eggs or their sperms outside of their body, and the fertilization occurs. Next, they have something specific as well, which is the nictating membrane, which is a transparent eyelid moving across the eyes for protection, which looks like this. Okay, so the nictating membrane is what? It is a membrane that protects the eye. Okay, so we have the cloaca, the nictating membrane. These are important features. Okay, next we're going to talk about fish. We have the agnathan, which is jawless fish. They do not have a jaw. And we have the chondrichthyes, which are made up of cartilaginous fish. They are made up of cartilage. Okay, and we have the ostichthyes, which are made up of bone. Osteo comes from bone, and chondra comes from cartilage. Okay. We have the lamprey fish, which are parasitic fish. Anything that's parasitic, it causes harm. Parasites other fish by sucking their blood and other body fluids. They do not have a jaw, but they have teeth, and this is what they look like. Okay, next we have the properties of fish. How do fish breathe? They breathe through gills, and their heart is made up of two chambers, the atrium and a ventricle, and they have jaws, which are for either eating or feeding or for defense. So they use their jaws either to feed or to defend. And they have fins, and there are a couple of different types of fins that we're gonna discuss. They are paddle shaped, and they are used for either balance or steering, either to move right or left, to control their direction, or for propulsion, which helps them to move forward. Okay, so basically it helps them in balancing and in moving in either directions. There are a couple of specific types of scales as well, either stenoids, cisloid, like sardines, or placoid, like sharks and gnoid. Okay, they have something called the swim bladder, which is found only in bony fish. What's the function of this bladder? It gets filled with it's a filled space like a balloon. Okay, it gets filled with air to control the depth of the fish. So, for example, if they fill this swim bladder with air or with a lot of air, it can help them to rise up in the water. And if they are gonna remove this air, it is gonna help them to sink within the water. Okay. And these are the different types of scales. The placoid scales are found on sharks and resemble teeth. They look like teeth. Okay. And the gnoid scales have a bony base layer and are rhomboid in shape. As you can see, they are rhomboid in shape. And the placoid, as you can see, they look like teeth. And the cisloid scales have a smooth outer edge. As you can see right here, they look like they're smooth. And the stenoid scales have teeth along the outer edge. Okay.
So,
Yes.
should I memorize the types of scales?
You should memorize the types as names. Okay. Not the specifications of them, like how they look. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Is the prayer did the prayer start yet or not? Shall we continue?
والله لسه باقي أتوقع 10 دقايق.
Okay. So the swimming movements in a fish, we've already discussed that there are a couple of types of fins. Okay, some of these are the dorsal fin. We have the dorsal fin, which we've already said that dorsal means something from above, so it's the fin above the fish. Okay, it helps in what? It helps in balance. And we have the caudal fin, which is it's in the back, so it helps in the moving of the fish in a forward movement. And we have the anal fin, which is present just below the caudal fin. And we have the pelvic fin, which is on the side. And we have the pectoral fin. And these two fins, their job is to steer, because they're on the side, so they help the fish to move either right or left. Okay. And we have the operculum cover, which covers the gills. You need to know these types of fins. We have something called the lateral line. What is the lateral line exactly? It is a system of sensory organs. Okay, so they are organs that can sense on a high level, and they're found in fish. They're used to detect the movement and vibration and pressure changes. So what is the lateral line? It is a sensory organ that helps it detect anything in its surrounding, whether it's movement, vibration, or pressure. So, movement of the fish in the water. Fishes have streamlined shape to allow them to move faster in water. Most of you guys know that whenever an object, whether it's a car or a bike or whatsoever, it has the streamlined shape. It's gonna help it with the resistance of the air, so it's gonna help it to move faster. Hence, this is the same that goes on within fish. It helps them to move faster in the water. Okay. You don't need to know this. It's just there to explain the shaping of the fish. Fishes swim by flexing their bodies and tail back and forth. Okay. Fishes contract the muscles on one side of their body. And when one side contracts, the other is gonna do what? It's gonna relax. Okay. So one side contracts, the other side relaxes, and this causes the motion or causes them to move forward. The pushing force is along the direction of bending these their bodies, and this is gonna cause an S shape. Okay, so if the muscle right here contracts, the muscle right here is gonna relax, and vice versa. Fishes use their back fin, called the caudal fin, to help them push them through the water, while pectoral and anal and pelvic and dorsal helps them to steer. And the specifications of each fin we've already discussed before. Next, we have birds. Their body is covered by feathers, and this helps them in flying and as an insulation to protect them from the changes in temperature. Feathers are extra parts that grow from birds' skin and are made up of keratin. Okay, so feathers are made up of what? Keratin, which is a type of protein. Okay, and they grow from where? They grow from the skin. There's also a gland, which is an oil gland. It produces oil to keep the feathers waterproof or to moisten them. And this helps the bird if it's like flying in watery conditions or in rain or whatsoever. Okay. Next, we have the wings, which are also known as the forelimb, and their function is to do what? Is to fly, right? And next, we have the legs, which are also known as the two hind limbs, and they are clawed. Okay, they have claws, and they help in support. We have two types of feather. We have the contour feather, which covers the body, wings and tail, and we have the down feather, which is soft layer of feather closest to the bird's skin, usually in the chest area, and it helps insulate the bird by trapping air. So the contour feather, it's for the looks of the bird, okay, and it usually covers the whole body and wings and tails. But within it or inside of it, we're gonna find the down feather, which is soft layer, which helps in what? It helps in insulation. Okay, and these are the looks of it. Bones are thin and hollow. Why are their bones thin and hollow? Because they fly, so they need to be light in weight. Okay, so the hollowness of the bone helps it to be light, and thus it can fly easily. And they are toothless. They do not have tooth, and they have horny beak, which is made up of a hard substance, which is called horns. Okay, that's why it's called the horny beak. Their body temperature is generated and regulated internally, and they are warm-blooded or endothermic. Okay, unlike the creatures the species that we've discussed earlier. Okay, they control their temperature within them. They have 4 chambered hearts, has a single right aortic arch. Okay, so they have one aorta. Okay, and also they have the amniotic eggs that we've discussed earlier in the reptiles. Most species eggs are incubated in a nest. So as you know, the birds make nests for their eggs to lay their eggs inside this nest. Bird groups and causes of its extinction. Why do birds or most of the birds go extinct? First off, we have the finches, which are the song birds, like crows and hummingbirds. We have the penguins, which use their wings as paddles to help them in swimming. And we have the ostriches, which they do not fly, okay? And we have the swans, which are water birds like swans and duck. So they only swim on the surface. A reason causing the extinction of birds is the destruction of their habitat and illegal training. So we have two reasons for the extinction of birds, which is the destruction of their habitats or trading them illegally, okay? Evolution and classification. Birds are vertebrates of the class Aves. The evolution of warm-blooded has enabled birds to survive in virtually every known environment. As we said, the warm-blooded, they maintain their internal temperature, okay, and this helped birds to withstand almost, not all, but the majority of the environmental changes. Most taxonomists classify the nearly 9,000 species of class Aves into 27 orders. To classify birds into orders and families, taxonomists most often use morphological evidence. So how do they classify them? They classify them according to their shapes. What exactly in their shapes? Either their beaks, their feet, their feathers, or their bone structure, or their muscles. Okay, so how did they classify them? They classify them according to their shapes. Most common shapes of beak are shredder, like the eagles, and the prob, like hummingbirds. And this is what they look like, okay? Digestive and excretory system. Food passes from the mouth cavity straight to the esophagus. Enlargement of the esophagus called the crop. We have the esophagus, and then there is a part where the esophagus enlarges, and this part where the esophagus enlarges is called the crop. What's the how does this crop help? It helps in storing and moistening food. Okay, so next we have something called the gizzard, the hind part of the stomach, especially modified for grinding food. So the function of the crop is to do what? To store and to moisten. The function of the gizzard is to do what? Is to grind food. Where exactly is this gizzard located? It's located between the crop and the intestine. The gizzard has a thick muscular wall and may contain small stones, okay, that function in the mechanical breakdown of seeds and other food. Mechanical breakdown, it means the breaking down of food using force and not using chemicals, okay, or enzymes. We only use force. What helps us here in this mechanical force? One, the muscular wall. Two, the small stones that are present within the gizzard, and we've already said that it helps in grinding food. So how does the grinding of food occur there? By the help of two things, which is the muscular wall and the small stones that are present inside of it. Here, this is the gizzard, and this is the crop. Their excretory system. How do they remove their waste? It is efficient and light in weight, and they do not have a bladder. Why? To lighten the bird, okay? They have two kidneys to filter the nitrogenous waste called the uric acid from the blood. So they use kidneys for filtration to filter their waste, and they have highly concentrated uric acid, which travels by ducts called ureters to the cloaca. We've already talked about the cloaca and how it carries the wastes, where along with undigested matter from the intestine, it is excreted in a semi-solid, usually white mass. So how do their excretion, what does their excretion looks like? It looks like a semi-solid material, which is white mass. And I think a lot of us have seen this look before when we're just walking and a bird just like throws its stones on us. Next, we have the respiratory system. Air enters through the paired nostrils, okay, the two holes right here, the nostrils, okay. So the air enters through it to the trachea, passing through the syrinx, which is also called the song box. It is a membranous structure located at the lower end of the trachea. So at the end of the trachea, we have what? We have the syrinx. Then it enters the posterior sac, okay? Then to lungs where gas exchange takes place. So first off, the air enters through the nostrils, then it passes through the trachea, and at the end of this trachea, we have what? We have the song box, okay, or the syrinx, and then after it passes through the song box, it's gonna enter to the posterior sac, okay, and then again it will go to the lungs where gas exchange is gonna take place. The deoxygenated air then goes to the anterior sacs. So after it goes to the lung, okay, and it takes up the oxygenated blood. This oxygenated blood is gonna go to the organs, and it's gonna provide it with the oxygen, and it's gonna take the waste from the cells, which is the carbon dioxide, and it's gonna return again with deoxygenated blood, okay, or deoxygenated air, which is air that does not or lacks oxygen, and it goes to the anterior sac to be exhaled so that it can exit the body. Air sacs hold air and facilitate internal air passing to allow birds to have a continuous flow of large volumes of air through the lungs as a way to increase oxygen exchange capacity and efficiency. So they have air sacs. What's the function of these air sacs? They basically increase the efficiency and increase the surface area for more gas exchange. So what's the function of air sacs? They help in increasing the surface area for more gas exchange to occur, so that I can take up more oxygen from the air that's coming inside and release more carbon dioxide. So as we can see here, the air enters through the nostrils, it moves through the trachea, okay, and then it goes into the posterior air sac, and then it goes into the lungs, and then it goes into the anterior air sac. The circulatory system, they have 4 chambered heart, right and left sides, which are completely separated, okay, and they have the right side receives deoxygenated blood from the body. Any deoxygenated blood comes from the body, and any oxygenated blood comes from the lungs, okay. It has a single aortic arch, and most birds have a rapid heartbeat. They have, for example, the hummingbirds have 600 times or 600 beating per minute, okay. Next, we have the mammals, which can be either made up of hair or fur, and they have mammillary glands. They maintain their temperature, or they are warm-blooded. They have teeth, and therefore they have 4 chambers within their heart. The respiration goes on by using lungs, and a specification is that they have diaphragm within their lungs, okay. If this is the lung, this is the diaphragm. It is the base of the lung, okay. They have hair, which helps in insulation or camouflage and sensory and acts as a sensory device, okay. They have a uterus, placenta, and gestation. What is a gestation? It is the time for the embryo to develop inside its mother's body. So gestation is the time where the embryo gets its time to develop where? Within its mother, okay. So we've already said they have mammillary glands. What's the importance of these mammillary glands? They produce milk. For who? For the youngs or for the baby. And they pursue movement either by jumping like kangaroos, or swimming like dolphins, or flying like bats, or running like wolves. And their reproduction, how do they reproduce? Their development of the embryo takes place within the female uterus, and we've already said that, and this is a very important specification. And their reproduction goes internally, so it happens within the female. The digestive system of mammals. We have insectivores, which an example of it is the shrews. Like they are mouse-like mammals with pointed knots and tiny eyes. This is what they look like. Their digestive system is very small and very short, so their digestion and their absorption does not take time at all. Then we have the non-ruminant herbivores. Okay, the non-ruminant herbivores, like what? Like rabbits. Cellulose is broken down by bacteria in the cecum. This is a specification of it. Okay, so we have the non-ruminant herbivores, which are like rabbits. Next, we have the ruminant, which are animals that chew the food, or they take the food in, and after they swallow it, they can bring it back up to their mouth to continue its chewing. Okay, so ruminant means that an animal that can take in its food, chew it partially, and then swallow it, and then bring it back into their mouth to continue its chewing. Okay, unlike the non-ruminant, which are like rabbits. Next, we have herbivores like deer, which their cellulose is broken down by bacteria in the stomach. So speaking of cellulose, in the non-rampant ruminant, we have this cellulose gets broken down by bacteria in the cecum, whereas in the deer or herbivore, cellulose is broken down by bacteria in the stomach. Okay, so this is the difference here in the cecum and here in the stomach. Next, we have the carnivores, which feed on meat, like foxes and lions. Teeth in mammals. Teeth reveal the life habitat of mammals. So whenever I have a mammal, if I look in their teeth, or how their teeth looks like, I can get a guess of what the type of food that they feed on. Okay, so it helps us to know what type of food this animal feeds on, more than any other physical characteristic. So teeth are very important for us to study, to know the type of food that this animal feeds on. Mammals have single lower jaw. Most species have 4 different types of teeth. We either have incisors or canines, which are the anterior teeth, and then we have the premolars and the molars, which help in chewing. We have the carnivores, and we've said already that the carnivores are the ones that eat meat only. Okay, so as a characteristic of carnivores, they have long pointed canines. Okay, these are the canines, and as you can see, they're long and pointy, like what? Like lions. Okay, next we have the herbivores, which feed on plants and have sharp incisors, so that it can help them in cutting the trees or the grass. Okay, and next we have the omnivores, which can eat either plants or animals, and have incisors and canines and more. They have all the 3 teeth that we've mentioned, or the 3 types of teeth that we've mentioned, like humans. Mammals are divided into 3 groups. We have the monotremes, and they are considered the most primitive form of mammals, and have bird-like and reptilian features, which means they belong to a characteristic of an early stage of development. So they do not entirely pursue like mammals, or they act like mammals. They could they could act like more than one characteristic, like we've said before. They could be furred. Okay, so furred like mammals and produce milk for their young, yet they reproduce by laying eggs. You see, this could, if you look at it, it could confuse you, Okay, and this is their specification. They do not have a specific standard. Okay, they can be furred, and they can produce milk and lay eggs, which is very odd. Okay, or duck-billed platypus and their relatives, the echinidans. Okay, these are just examples.
Tara,
Yes.
يعني the duck-billed platypus lays eggs.
Sorry.
The duck-billed platypus,
Yes.
it lays eggs.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Next, we have another division is the marsupials. They give birth to tiny, immature young that crawl to a pouch on their mother's belly immediately after they are born, which is a short period of gestation period. We've already said that this period is the period that the baby or the offspring, it continues its growth within the mother. Okay, so this is a short period where the baby continues its growth within the mother, like kangaroos. Next, we have the placental mammals, which mammals that have placenta. They carry unborn young in the uterus until young can survive in the wild, like humans. Okay, oxygen and nutrients are transferred from the mother's blood to the baby's blood through what? Through the placenta. Okay, so the baby grows or develops in the uterus, and it gets its food or nutrients from the mother's blood, and it will remove the waste from its body into the mother's blood as well, through what, or by the help of what? By the help of the placenta. The placenta is a membrane providing nutrients and removes waste and gas exchange between the mother and the developing young baby. The gestation period is the time which mammals develop in the mother's uterus. And we said that the kangaroos can have a short period of gestation after they are born. The bat is the only mammal that can fly. Placental mammals order. We have so we're going to classify the mammals that are considered placental, or they have a placenta. We have the primates first, which include lemurs, and these are just examples for them. Mostly here in this part, we're going to know the classification and its examples, okay? A complex brain has enabled arthropods to develop behaviors and to live in highly organized social groups. They look like monkeys or gorillas, and as you know, these type of animals, they live in groups. Okay, why? Because they have complex brains. Okay, we have the Rodentia, which are the largest mammalian order, having over 400 species, including squirrels, marmots, chipmunks, and so on. Lagomorpha includes rabbits, hares, and small mountain mammals called picas, like these ones. Chiropetra, made up of over 9,000 species of bats. They live throughout the world except in the polar areas where it's very cold, and they have a bat swing resembles a modified human hand. So the bat swing, it could look like a human hand. And for you to imagine it, if you look at the skin between your fingers, just imagine this skin that's between your fingers. If it's larger and thinner, this is what the wings of the bat look like. Okay. Bats also have a thumb that ends with a claw. Okay. This claw helps in what? It helps in climbing or walking or grasping an animal. Cetacea, there are 90 species of whales, dolphins, and porpoises are distributed worldwide. They look like fish, okay, but they are much bigger, and they have four limbs which act as flippers, which helps them in swimming. They are divided into two groups, which are toothed whales and baleen whales, which are toothless. So they're divided either into toothed or toothless. Toothed whales include beaked whales, sperm whales, bilge whales, narwhals, killer whales, dolphins, and porpoises. They have over 100 teeth. And they eat on what, or they feed on what? On fish or on seals. Okay, so that they're divided upon their teeth. Cernia, or the sea cows. The order Cernia is made up of 4 species of manatees and dugongs. They are herbivorous. They feed on plants. They have front limbs, which helps them in swimming. Okay, and they lack hind legs, which are the legs in the back. Okay.
دكتورة
Yes.
ممكن بس نصلي
Oh
سمحتي
yes, sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Take your time, guys, and when you're back, just please let me know. I see you guys raising your hands. Shall we start, or are there people that aren't here yet? Guys, can you please ask your friends to join if they haven't yet? Or shall we proceed? What about the rest? We still have Majid and Ratil. They did not raise their hand. Is Majid with us? Guys, tell me whenever you're ready. I'm not sure if you're all here or not. Okay, welcome back, Majid. I think now we're all here, so we can start. Okay, Bismillah. We're gonna continue with the carnivora. We have 250 living species in carnivora, okay, and they are distributed worldwide. Most of the species mainly eat meat, sorry, from their name, okay, carnivora, they're carnivores, so they mainly eat meat. They generally have long canines because they're carnivores, they eat meat, like we've said before, and strong jaws to help them eat the meat as well, and clawed toes so that they can catch their food, okay? And there are about 34 species, and the examples are, as we can see, otters, cats, and seals. Some members of this order, such as bears and raccoons and pigs, feed extensively on plant material as well as meat, so they are called omnivores. We already said that any animal that eats both plant and meat is called an omnivore, okay? So Within the carnivora, they mainly eat meat, and they're characterized by long canine teeth and strong jaws and clawed toes. And some of them are omnivores. Next, we have the Pinnipedia, are water-dwelling carnivores and have streamlined body. We already described what streamlined body means, okay? And it helps them obviously in their movement. Next, we have the Artiodactylia, which are example for them is deers and cattle. They have even amount of toes, okay, like these ones, they have even amount of toes. And the next is an odd number of toes, like this one, like horses, okay. We have the this is an example. We have the ungulated hoofed mammals. They have hoofs, okay. These two classes are herbivores. They eat what? They eat plants. They have a storage chamber in their stomach called the rumen, okay. And their food goes into double digestion. Their food gets digested twice, okay. So this is an important characteristic of them. The Proboscidea are characterized by boneless nose. This is the most important characteristic. Like what? Like elephants, okay? They have modified incisors called the tusks, okay? We know the tusk that the elephant has for digging up roots and stripping bark from branches. So they have boneless tooth, okay? Boneless nose, sorry. And they have something called tusks, which are what? Which are incisors, but they are modified. And the function of these tusks is to what? Is to dig up inside of the soil or inside of the land. Next, we have the Xenarthra, and an example for this is the armadillos. And this is all you need to know about it, its name and the example. This is just a table for what we've said. And here you can see the circulations that we've discussed. So, for example, we've mentioned that frogs have a three-chambered heart, okay? They have three-chambered heart. As you can see here, 1, 2, and 3. It has 2 aortas and 1 ventricle, okay? And it has double circulation, which means the blood passes through the heart twice, okay? And this is just another diagram for it. This is the end of this lecture. Does anyone have any questions? I think, do you guys want me to... You're welcome. Do you guys want me, if it's helpful for any of you, just tell me. Do you guys want me to make this part, for example, into a table for you? So that you can see it as, you know, one diagram and helps you in your vision so that you can memorize it easily. Does that make it easier for you guys or no?
Yeah, tables are good, I think.
Yes.
Like we read this and then we look at the table.
Okay, I will inshallah make a table for these and I will send it to you guys so that it makes it easier for you to learn.
انت قصدك على بس ده البارت ولا كل البارتس اللي هي tables وسكن؟
شوف أنا قصدي يعني مثلا this part it has a lot of classifications. So for example in this part I would make a table for you. فاهم ازاي؟ يعني not I will make a whole summary for this lecture that you can read or revise whenever you're done with the lecture or you want to just see something quick, okay? But I mean for you to memorize the specific tables for specific parts, not a table for the whole lecture, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
يعطيك العافية دكتور.
Next we will move to systems. We're going to be talking about systems. In my opinion, this is the best part of the course. If you just focused with me and you understood it well, you can leave this lecture وانت فاهمين كويس, okay? So first off, the circulatory or the cardiovascular system. The cardiovascular system or the circulatory system, basically we have blood within our body which moves into a circuit or a cycle. This blood carries oxygen from the lungs and it delivers this oxygen to our cells so that the cells can use it. And after the cells use this blood or this oxygen, it's gonna produce waste into form of what? One of these forms is carbon dioxide. So after the cells use up the oxygen, it will turn it into carbon dioxide, and it's gonna throw it back into the blood. So the blood is gonna go back again, which is the second circuit, into the heart, so that it can go to the lungs and dispose it. Okay, so the circulatory system keeps the body working by delivering oxygen to the body cells and removing wastes like carbon dioxide from the cells. It is a closed system. What's a closed system mean? It means that the blood moves all around without moving outside. Okay? Blood moves in a complete circuit of blood vessels. It consists of blood. This system consists of what? It consists of organs. Okay? So what are these organs? We have the blood, the heart, and blood vessels. And we have different types of blood vessels that we're gonna know, like arteries, capillaries, and veins. Okay? And we have the heart, which is also divided into parts. It is made up of what? It's made up of 4 chambers, 2 atriums and 2 ventricles. Okay? We have the right atrium, and we have, we're gonna name them later. We have the right atrium, which accepts deoxygenated blood from the body. As we said, any deoxygenated blood, it comes from where? It comes from the body. And any oxygenated blood comes from where? It comes from the lungs. This is a rule, okay? So the right atrium carries the deoxygenated blood coming from where? Coming from the body. And the left atrium, on the other side, it carries the oxygenated blood, which comes from the lungs. And we already said that deoxygenated blood is blood that carries a lot of carbon dioxide and very, very low amount of oxygen. And the oxygenated blood is the blood that carries a lot or a huge amount of oxygen within it. We have the right ventricle, which pumps out the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Okay, through what? Through pulmonary arteries. And we have the left ventricle, which pumps oxygenated blood to blood through what? Through the aorta. And a specification of the aorta is that it is the largest artery. Okay, so both atriums, they receive. Okay, they receive what? One receives deoxygenated blood, the other receives oxygenated blood. And then we have the 2 ventricles. The 2 ventricles pushes out the blood. Where does it push it out to? It depends. We have the right ventricle, which pushes this or pumps this blood to the lungs. Okay, and the left ventricle, which pushes this or pumps this blood to the all the parts of the body. Okay, the deoxygenated blood gets pumped back to the lungs. Why? So that it can get oxygenated. Veins carry deoxygenated blood. This is a rule, okay? That all veins carry deoxygenated blood. And as we said, the deoxygenated blood is the blood that comes from where? It comes from all over the body. It carries a lot of carbon dioxide, okay? Except for what? Except for the pulmonary vein. So whenever I see any vein, I know that it carries what? It carries deoxygenated blood. But the pulmonary vein is the only exception. Likewise, we have the arteries, which carry oxygenated blood. And again, it has a lot of oxygen, and it carries it away from the heart. Except for what? Except for the pulmonary artery. Okay, why does the arteries carry the oxygenated blood away from the heart? So that it can deliver it to the other organs or tissue while it's rich in oxygen. Okay, so what are our exceptions here? The pulmonary vein and pulmonary artery. So both pulmonary vein and artery are our exceptions. Okay, so here is a diagram to illustrate the flow of the blood within the heart. Okay, so first off, we need to know that we have, this is the vena cava vein. Okay, this is the right atrium. Okay, and then we have the right ventricle right here, and this is the left atrium and the left ventricle. Okay, so atrium, ventricle, and right and left. And as you can see in the diagram, if you're looking at it, the left that you're seeing is basically your right. So they are reversed. Okay. Why is it reversed? Because when we study biology on a patient, we imagine that the patient is us. Okay. And we do not reflect it as if we're studying it from like what we're seeing. Okay. So it should be reversed. Okay. So first off, the blood is gonna go from the superior vena cava. Okay, we have this is the superior vena cava, and this is the inferior vena cava. The blood is gonna enter from the vena cava into what? Into the right atrium. Okay, first off, we have our first destination is what? It is the right atrium. Next, it's gonna move downwards into what? Into the right ventricle, right? And then it's gonna go into the pulmonary artery. Okay, and as we said, this first cycle, it carries what? It carries deoxygenated blood. So this blood is coming from where? It's coming from the body or from the cells. Okay, so the deoxygenated blood enters through the vena cava. Our first destination is the right atrium. Next is our right ventricle, and then it moves into the pulmonary artery. Next, after it goes into the lungs and it comes back, it's going to enter through the pulmonary vein. And as you remember, we said our exceptions in carrying blood are what? Are the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein. Usually we said veins carry deoxygenated blood and arteries carry oxygenated blood, but in our exception, the pulmonary vein here carries what? It carries oxygenated blood, and the pulmonary artery here carried what? It carried the deoxygenated blood. So the blood entering from the pulmonary vein is going to enter into its first destination again, what? The right atrium, and then into the the left atrium, and then into the left ventricle, and then it's gonna move outwards into the aorta. Next, we have something called the sinoatrial node, or also known as the pacemaker. Okay, this is like a station where it produces electricity to help the heart in pumping. Okay, so as you know, for example, in movies or even in real life, if you ever saw this, when someone's heart stops moving or stops pumping, they do what? They proceed to bring something electrical and they shock the heart with it. Why? In hopes to make this sinoatrial node to start to shock it so that it can start working again and to start and produce like something like electricity to help the heart in pumping. They are located where? They are located in the right atrium. Okay, right where the blood enters. Okay. The sinoatrial node, and sometimes for short we say SA, generates an electrical signal that spreads through the atria, okay, causing them to contract. So because they're found here in this atrium, okay, they when the electrical signal or electrical shock gets produced, this shock is going to travel into the atria and into the next atria, okay, and then when this shock gets produced, what happens? They contract. Okay, so the aim of this signal is to do what? Is to contract the muscle. Okay, next we're gonna have something called the atrioventricular node or AV node. Where is it exactly? It's right here. Okay, it is just above the ventricles. Okay, what is the purpose of the AV node? The purpose of the AV node is to slow down this electrical shock from reaching the ventricles. Again, the AV node slows down the electrical shock from reaching the ventricles. Why so? Why do we need to slow down this electrical shock exactly? so that the right atrium and the right ventricle, for example, do not contract at the same time, right? We need a fraction of seconds between them or between their contractions. So we want the right atrium to contract first, and then when it relaxes, the shock is gonna be delivered to the right ventricle, and it's gonna contract as well, or after the right atrium. So again, we learned two nodes, okay? We have the sinoatrial node. Where is it found? In the right atrium. What is the job of the sinoatrial node? Is to produce electrical signals or electrical shocks. Where do these shocks travel to? They travel to the atriums, okay, and after they travel to the atriums, they'll travel to the ventricles. But we have another node, which is the atrioventricular node, which helps in what? In slowing down this signal from moving into the ventricles right away. This is just a demonstration of what we just said.
دكتور ممكن تعيدي لو سمحتي؟
Yes, sure. Okay, so first of all, we have two nodes, okay? We have the sinoatrial node, okay? And we have just a sec. Okay, so we have two nodes right here. We have the sinoatrial node and the AV node, okay? Generally, the sinoatrial node, the function of it is to what? The function is to produce electricity or an electrical signal, okay? And generally, the AV node, the function of it is to what? It is to slow down this electrical signal, okay? So, when the sinoatrial node produces this signal is going to travel. Where is it going to travel to? First off, it's going to travel to the atriums, because this is the closest part to it. As we said, it's located where? It's located in the atrium. So the closest part to it is the atrium. So it will produce this signal to the atriums. We don't want both the atrials and the ventricles to contract at the same time. Okay, we want either the atrium to contract and the ventricles to relax, or vice versa. So we need to slow down this shock. Okay, so what helps us in slowing down this shock? It is the AV node. Okay, so now when the shock from the sinoatrial node gets produced, it will travel into the atriums. Okay, when it travels to the atriums, what happens? The atriums contract. Okay, when they contract, they push the blood into the ventricles. Okay, so after they contract, the blood flows into the ventricles. And then by the time that the blood gets filled into the ventricles, which is the time that the atrioventricular node, both for this process to happen, it slowed down the shock that was sent from the sinoatrial node into the ventricles. Okay, after it slows it down, eventually the shock is gonna reach the ventricles. When it reaches the ventricles, what's gonna happen? It's gonna contract the ventricles, and thus the blood is gonna get pumped out of it into either the pulmonary vein or the pulmonary artery, depending on the side that we're talking about. What exactly do you not get, or is it more clear now?
It's clear.
It's clear, thank you. شكرا.
Are you sure? Are you
Yes.
sure? I can repeat, it's fine.
لا شكرا الله يسلمك.
Okay. So we have blood vessels, and we have different types of blood vessels. First off, we have the arteries, which we said they only carry oxygenated blood, which is blood filled with oxygen. And this blood that carries oxygen, where do we want it to go? We want it to go all the other parts of the body, so that it can deliver the oxygen to them. Okay, and usually you will find arteries under muscles. Why? So that it can protect them. Because if any cut happens to an artery, a lot of blood can be lost. Why so? Because arteries carry blood under very high pressure. So if a cut happened to the artery, we're gonna lose a lot of blood in no time, because it carries blood under what? Under very high pressure. That's why they're found under muscles as a form of protection to the arteries. Okay, they have thicker lining than veins, and their diameter is very small. That's why the blood rushes through them in very high pressure, because the space within the artery is very small, because its diameter is very small. Why so? Because it has thick walls. Okay, and as we said, they take blood from the heart or away from the heart to the body or to the organs. Okay, so what are the characteristics of arteries? Once again, they carry oxygenated blood away from the heart to the body or to the organs or cells. Okay, and they have thick walls, and their diameter inside of the artery is very small, so that the blood can run into high pressure, so that it can reach the cells very well. Okay, and you'll find them under muscles, so that they are protected. Next, we have the veins, which is the total opposite of arteries. Okay, so they carry deoxygenated blood. Okay, and this blood goes to where? It goes to the heart. Okay, and it has valves. It's very important to have for the veins to have valves. Why so? What's the importance of valves in veins? Basically, veins carry oxygen to the heart. Okay, so it moves against gravity. Again, it moves, the blood in veins moves against gravity. So it needs something called valves. If this is the vein, these are the valves. Okay, so that whenever the blood gets, it moves in this direction, the valves close, so that the blood does not move backwards due to gravity. Okay. Next, we have the capillary. And by the way, the veins are also they're also opposite to arteries in their structure. So as we said, in arteries, they have a small diameter and thicker walls. In veins is the opposite. They have wide diameter. Okay, that's why the blood moves within them in low pressure. Next, we have the capillaries. Capillaries, it is the space between cells, which supply them with their requirements, either oxygen or other nutrients. Okay, and they take up the waste products from the cells as well. How does this happen? It happens by diffusion. Okay, so the capillaries are the ones that are closest to the cells or tissues, and the exchange process of wastes and benefit stuff gets done by what? A process called diffusion. Every cell is close to a blood capillary, so that it can collect oxygen from the red blood cells, and the carbon dioxide gets also exchanged into the capillaries away from the cells. Okay, so this is a demonstration of what we just said. Here we have the thin capillaries. The oxygen from the blood in the capillaries is going to move outside into the cell, and the carbon dioxide that was made as a waste product is going to move inside of the cell. By what? Again, as we said, by diffusion. Here, as you can see, the wall of the artery is thick, and the walls of the vein is thinner, and the diameter here is a lot smaller than the diameter here. And as you can see, these are the valves. We're going to talk about blood. Okay, we have 5 to 6 liters of blood inside of us. Okay, and we have different types of cells within the blood. First off, we have the red blood cells, which are made in the bone marrow. Okay, they are made in the bone marrow. And we have, and what's the function of these red blood cells? Their function is to carry oxygen or food or nutrients to the cells. Okay, their structure is very unique to help them perform this function. Okay, first off, they're biconcave. Okay, what does biconcave mean? As you can see, they look like discs. Okay, they look like discs. Why so? This when they look like discs, it helps them in increasing their surface area to hold more oxygen. Again, how does them looking like discs help? It helps them in being able to hold more oxygen, unlike if they were flat. If they were flat, they wouldn't hold as much oxygen as they would have if they were disc-like shaped. Okay. Again, also, they are flexible. Why do we need them to be flexible? Because imagine them, they move through capillaries, which are very, very small and thin. They're very thin. Capillaries are made up of only one cell layer of a wall. Okay, so it's very thin, so they need to be very flexible so that they can squeeze in within the vessels. Red blood cells, they do not have a nucleus. Why do they not have a nucleus? So that they can increase their surface area to carry more oxygen. So again, we have two characteristics now that helps us in carrying more oxygen: the lack of nucleus and the biconcavity of the red blood cells. And within them, they have the iron-containing protein called hemoglobin. What's the function of the hemoglobin? It carries the oxygen. So the red blood cells has hemoglobin within it to carry oxygen, and it has two specific characteristics, which is it's biconcave to carry more oxygen, and it has no nucleus, again, to carry more oxygen. Next, we have the white blood cells. The function of white blood cells is defense. Okay, it defenses our body against any infection, against any bacteria, against anything that would irritate our peace. Okay, they are made where? They are made in the lymphatic nodes. So red blood cells are made where? They're made in the bone marrow, and white blood cells are made where? They're made in the lymph nodes. Next, we have the platelets, which help in blood clotting. So whenever you have a cut on your skin and skin reforms over it, this is the function of what? It's the function of platelets. What's the how does forming a clot help us? It helps us from losing a lot of blood. So the platelets function is to do what? It's to preserve the amount of blood within us by forming what? By forming a clot when we cut our skin. Next, we have the plasma, which is 54% of the blood volume. It's almost half the blood is made up of plasma. What's the function of this plasma? It carries substances from the cells or from any specific cells. Like, for example, it carries the urea, it carries the nutrients, it carries the salts, it carries everything. It even carries the hormones to travel it, and so on. So the plasma's function is to do what? It is mainly to carry any substance except for oxygen, because we already said that the oxygen is carried by what? It is carried by the hemoglobin, which is found within the red blood cells.
Miss,
Yes.
can we stop here?
You sure? You want us to stop?
والله دماغي وقفت يعني.
Do you want us to take a break and continue, or do you want us to stop for today?
أنا حسب رأي الشباب والله.
Okay. What do you all think?
والله دكتور أتفق معه.
إيه ما سمعتش.
أقول أتفق معه والله مرة ما شاء الله كذا اليوم معلومات كثير.
بجد؟ طيب. Okay. لا عايزين نوقف النهاردة. It's fine. أنا مش هضغطكوا طبعا. Whatever you guys say or makes you comfortable. I don't mind at all.
الله يعطيك ألف عافية دكتور.
تسلم والله مس.
مشكور.
العفو على إيه. Guys, we're gonna stop right here. And we're gonna continue next time, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you, miss.
Thank you, miss.
Thank you.